I'm Marcus, 43 years old, and for almost 2 decades, I built what I thought was an unshakable life. My wife Jennifer and I started a tech consulting company from scratch when our oldest daughter was still in diapers. We grew it into something real, employing a dozen people, chasing contracts with major corporations. 3 kids, a nice house, in Tempe, Arizona, and what looked like the perfect partnership. Until it all fell apart on an ordinary Tuesday night. I was working late in our home office, putting together a proposal for this massive client we'd been pursuing for months. Our firm, Anderson Tech Consulting, was this close to landing a deal that would change everything. Jennifer and I had poured our souls into building this business together. Now we had our daughters Sophie and Madison, plus our son Tyler. And from the outside, everything seemed ideal. It was almost midnight when I heard her car in the driveway. Third late night that week. She'd mentioned some networking thing, supposedly meeting with potential investors at some downtown tech event. I went to the kitchen thinking maybe I'd heat up leftovers for her. When she walked in, something was immediately off. Her hair looked messy, but deliberately so, like someone had run their fingers through it. Lipstick smudged at the corner. And there was this cologne smell that definitely wasn't hers, something expensive and masculine. She barely acknowledged me. Just dropped her bag and said she was exhausted, heading straight for the shower. In 18 years of marriage, Jennifer always greeted me when she came home. Always asked about my day before launching into hers. Always looked me in the eye. That night, nothing. I stood there listening to the water running upstairs and felt this cold certainty settle in my chest. I went back to the office and checked our shared calendar. No networking event listed anywhere. Opened her work email, which she'd given me access to years ago for business continuity purposes. No invitations, no confirmations, nothing about any mixer or investor meeting. That's when I started really digging. The next morning, I acted completely normal. Made breakfast for everyone, asked Jennifer about her day ahead. She sat there scrolling through her phone, barely present. Mentioned some client meeting at 10, then lunch with an investor, said she'd probably be late again. Sophie came down with her backpack, sharp as hell at 16. She glanced between us, and I could tell she sensed something was wrong, but didn't say anything. Tyler thundered in next, 13 and always hungry, grabbing food without sitting. Our youngest, Madison, was still getting ready upstairs, probably trying on different outfits. After everyone left, I did something I never imagined doing. Called my brother Derek. He's a divorce lawyer in Phoenix, one of the best in the state. I needed advice before going any further down this road. When he picked up, I hesitated. Saying it out loud would make it real. But I told him everything. The late nights, the missing calendar entries, the cologne, the way she'd stopped really seeing me. Derek listened without interrupting, then told me I needed proof. Solid documentation, especially with the business involved. He said to check anything I had legal joint access to, but to stay clean and not hack into anything personal. I spent 3 days going through our financial records. Everything was joint for the business, transparent for tax purposes. That's where I found it. Hotel charges in Phoenix at these boutique romantic places, not the ones we used for business travel. 5 different transactions over 6 weeks, all on Wednesdays, all charged to our company card under client entertainment expenses. Then the restaurant receipts. Expensive dinners for 2, wine that cost more than we spent on groceries in a month. She'd categorized everything as business expenses, making it all tax deductible. Smart, except I knew for certain we had no clients in those locations. I photographed everything, built a timeline, cross-referenced it with her actual calendar that I found on her laptop. Every Wednesday for 2 months, she'd blocked off personal time from 5 in the evening until midnight. Then I pulled out our company partnership agreement, the one Jennifer and I had signed when we incorporated. I drafted it myself with Derek's help back when we were young and optimistic. But there it was, an infidelity clause with buyout provisions. Everything I needed to protect myself and our kids. I waited until Friday morning. Jennifer had just gotten back from yoga, hair damp, wearing those expensive workout clothes she'd bought recently. The kids had already left. Sophie had driven Tyler and Madison to school, which meant we had the house to ourselves for at least 40 minutes. Jennifer poured coffee, scrolling her phone like always. I sat at the kitchen table, hands folded, watching her. I'd rehearsed this 100 times, but now I just felt cold and clear. I told her we needed to talk. She barely looked up, asked about what. I said about Ryan Chen. Her hand froze mid-scroll just for a second. She recovered fast, arranging her face into confusion. I kept my voice level and told her about the guy she'd been meeting at the Prescott Hotel every Wednesday night, the one she'd been charging to our business account as client entertainment, the one who'd helped her spend $7,000 of company money over 2 months. The color drained from her face. She set down her coffee carefully like she was buying time to think, started to say she didn't know what I was talking about. I slid a folder across the table. Hotel receipts, restaurant charges, GPS data from her company car, which was also company property. Dates, times, locations, even the wine she ordered. I mentioned reviewing our partnership contract and asked if she remembered the infidelity clause, the one she'd thought was paranoid when I insisted Derek draft it into our agreement. Her jaw tightened. She got defensive, asked if I'd been spying on her, going through her things. I corrected her calmly, said I'd been reviewing our business expenses, something any 50% partner had the legal right to do. What I found was my wife systematically stealing from our company to fund an affair. That was embezzlement and fraud. She tried to leave, regroup, probably come back with a better story. I'd seen her use that tactic in business negotiations countless times. I told her not to insult me by lying anymore. Said I had everything, including text messages she thought were deleted and statements from hotel staff confirming she was a regular guest. The mask dropped completely. She got angry, asked if I wanted to know why. Raised her voice, saying I hadn't touched her in over a year. That all I cared about was work and the kids and the house. That she felt invisible in her own marriage. I stood up slowly, poured more coffee. My hands were steady. Told her exactly what was going to happen. She was going to call Ryan and tell him she'd be permanently free next week because I'd be handling the divorce papers. She froze completely, eyes going wide. Asked if I was serious. Started saying we had kids, a business, a life together. Was I really going to throw everything away over this? I looked at her and felt nothing but disappointment. Told her I wasn't throwing anything away. That she already did that the moment she chose to lie, steal, and betray everything we built. Said I wanted her out by Sunday evening, that she could stay at her sister's place. Jennifer didn't leave quietly. She spent the next hour trying every manipulation tactic she had. First came tears and pleading. Promises it was just a mistake, that Ryan meant nothing, that she'd end it if I gave her another chance. When that didn't work, she tried bargaining, saying we could go to counseling. That divorce would hurt the kids more than her affair. When I stayed silent, she turned vicious. Said her father would destroy me, asked if I thought I could just kick her out of her own company. I reminded her calmly about the partnership agreement she signed, how infidelity committed by a partner using company resources triggered an immediate buyout clause at discounted valuation. Said Derek was already drafting paperwork and she'd get what she was legally entitled to, nothing more. Her face went white. She couldn't believe I'd talked to Derek about this. I told her I'd talked to my attorney about protecting my interests and my children's interests. Sophie was applying to colleges next year. Tyler and Madison needed stability, not chaos. I wasn't going to let her take them down because she couldn't keep her vows. That shut her up briefly. She said the kids didn't need to know about this, that we could tell them we grew apart, that we could be civil. I agreed, which is why I expected her to pack quietly and leave without a scene. Because if she forced me to explain to Sophie why her mother destroyed this family, I would tell the truth. That afternoon, after Jennifer locked herself in the bedroom, I sat down with Sophie. She deserved to know first, being the oldest and most perceptive. We sat in my office with the door closed. She immediately asked what was going on, said she'd heard us arguing, and her mom had been crying all morning. I took a breath and told her straight. Her mother and I were getting divorced because she'd been having an affair for several months, and I wasn't willing to stay in a marriage without trust and honesty. Sophie stared at me, processing it. I watched confusion turn to understanding, turn to anger flash across her face. She said that's why Jennifer had been gone so much. All those Wednesday night meetings. She told me she knew something was wrong, that her mom had been different and distant. She'd thought maybe we were just stressed about work. I apologized that she'd noticed. She got firm and told me not to apologize, that Jennifer did this, not me. Asked if we'd be okay. I promised we'd be fine, better than fine, said I needed her help with Tyler and Madison, though, that they'd need their big sister more than ever. She nodded, wiping her eyes, then asked about the business. I told her I was buying Jennifer out, that the company would continue, Our employees would keep their jobs. Nothing would change professionally. That evening, I sat Tyler and Madison down together in the living room. Told them simply that their mom and I were getting divorced, that sometimes adults make mistakes and hurt each other, and the best thing is to live separately so we can both be better parents. Tyler went silent, his face shutting down the way it does when processing something painful. Madison's eyes immediately filled with tears. She whispered, asking if it was her fault. I pulled her onto my lap and promised it had nothing to do with her, that this was between their mom and me. Told all three of them they were the best thing that ever happened to me, and that would never change. Tyler finally asked where their mom was going to live. I said with Aunt Lisa for now, that they'd still see her, and we'd work out a schedule. By Sunday evening, Jennifer was gone. 3 suitcases packed, took her car, and left without saying goodbye to the kids. Just walked out while they were at their grandmother's house. 18 years of marriage, 3 children, and she couldn't face them. Sophie found me in the garage that night, where I was organizing tools just to keep busy. Asked if Jennifer was really gone. When I confirmed, Sophie said good, that Jennifer didn't deserve me or them. I pulled my daughter into a hug and realized I wasn't broken. I was free. Monday morning hit hard. I was in my office at Anderson Tech Consulting, reviewing the preliminary buyout calculations Derek had sent when Michelle, our executive assistant, knocked. Said someone was here to see me urgently, name of Ryan Chen. My blood went cold then hot, then settled into perfect calm. I told her to send him in. Ryan walked into my office like he owned it. Tall, confident, expensive suit screaming tech money. He had this practiced smile that probably worked on investors and apparently worked on my wife. He extended his hand introducing himself. I didn't take it, just looked at him until he lowered it awkwardly. He said we needed to talk, settled into the chair across from my desk uninvited. I asked about what? He said about the Morrison contract, the Fortune 500 deal I was pitching. Said he was the VP of technology at Morrison Industries, the one evaluating my proposal. The room tilted. This couldn't be real. I asked if he was joking. Ryan's smile widened. Not joking, he said. Small world. He'd been reviewing my proposal for 3 weeks. Said it was impressive work. Mentioned that Jennifer had been helping him understand our company's capabilities during their meetings. There it was. The smugness, the deliberate provocation. I stood up slowly, walked around my desk, and closed the office door. Then I turned to face him, keeping my voice level. Told him my personal and professional lives were completely separate. If he wanted to evaluate our proposal, fine, evaluate it on merit. But if he thought he could leverage his relationship with my soon-to-be ex-wife to manipulate this deal, he was making a serious mistake. His smile faltered. He said he wasn't trying to manipulate anything. I asked why he was here then, in my office, telling me he was sleeping with my wife and reviewing my biggest contract. What exactly did he hope to accomplish? He shifted uncomfortably, said he wanted to be upfront, professional, man to man. I stepped closer, told him a man doesn't sleep with another man's wife. A man doesn't use business opportunities to rub affairs in someone's face. Said if he wanted professional, he could get out of my office, review the proposal objectively, and make his decision based on the work, not the drama. Ryan stood up and accused me of making it personal. I replied that he made it personal the moment he touched my wife. Told him to leave my office and warned that if he tanked this deal because of his relationship with Jennifer, I'd make sure every tech executive in Phoenix knew exactly why. Said this industry talks and he should choose wisely. Ryan left without another word. I sat back down, hands shaking slightly, and called Derek. Told him we had a problem. That evening, I got home to find Sophie sitting on the front steps looking pale and worried. She immediately told me it was Madison, that she wouldn't come out of her room and had been crying for hours. Sophie had tried talking to her, but Madison wanted me. I found Madison curled up on her bed, hugging her favorite stuffed bear, her 7-year-old face blotchy and wet. My heart broke. I sat on the edge of her bed and she looked up at me asking if Mommy was coming back. I promised she'd visit, that Madison would see her all the time. Madison asked why Jennifer left, if she did something bad, if she wasn't good enough. I pulled her into my lap, holding her tight, told her to listen, that none of this was her fault, not one bit, that sometimes grown-ups make mistakes and hurt each other, and the best thing is to live separately. But her, Tyler, and Sophie were perfect, the best parts of both their parents. Madison sobbed that she missed her mom. Tyler appeared in the doorway, silent and watching. At 13, he was trying to be strong, but I could see the cracks forming. I called him over. He hesitated, then walked to us. I pulled him into the hug, too, and we sat there, the three of us, while Madison cried and Tyler fought back his own tears. I promised them we'd be okay, that I wasn't going anywhere, Sophie wasn't going anywhere. We'd figure this out together. Later that night, after I'd gotten Madison to sleep and Tyler had retreated to his room, Sophie found me in the kitchen. Said Jennifer had called and wanted to talk to the kids tomorrow. I said okay. Sophie admitted she didn't want to talk to her mom and asked if that was wrong. I pulled her into a hug, told her no, that she felt what she felt. But Jennifer was still her mom, and eventually she'd need to find a way to communicate, even if she was angry. Sophie whispered that she was so angry at Jennifer, at what she did to me, to us. I said I knew that I was too, but we couldn't let anger poison us. We were better than that. Sophie nodded against my shoulder and said she was glad I was her dad. I told her I was glad she was my daughter. Derek called me Thursday morning with news that made everything worse. Said he'd found something, asked if I remembered the money we'd been saving for the move to Seattle. The $75,000 in the joint savings account, earmarked for the down payment on the house in Seattle. My stomach dropped. I asked Mus what about it. He said it was gone. Jennifer had transferred it to a personal account 2 weeks ago, before I even confronted her. I sat down heavily. That money represented years of sacrifice, extra contracts, late nights, skipped vacations. We'd been planning to relocate the business to Seattle, expand into the Pacific Northwest market. The kids were excited. Sophie had already visited the University of Washington campus. I asked if we could get it back. Derek said we could try, but it would take time. Jennifer would claim it was for business expenses or that she was entitled to half in the divorce settlement. The fact that she moved it before I filed might actually work in our favor, though, showed premeditation. I drove to Lisa's house, Jennifer's sister's place, where Jennifer had been staying. Lisa answered, looking uncomfortable, said Jennifer wasn't there. I told her calmly I wasn't there to fight, but Jennifer stole $75,000 from our family, money meant for our kids' future. I needed to know if Lisa was aware of what Jennifer was doing. Lisa's face fell. She said Jennifer told her it was her money, that I was trying to freeze her out. I suggested Lisa check the account dates, check when Jennifer transferred it. Told her I didn't even know about the affair until after Jennifer moved that money, that she'd planned this and been preparing to run for months. Lisa looked sick and said she'd talked to Jennifer. I told her not to bother, just to know that when this went to court, the truth would come out, all of it. That evening, Sophie came to me with her phone. Said I needed to see something. It was an Instagram post from Jennifer. A photo of her and Ryan at some upscale restaurant, wine glasses raised, smiling. The caption read, "New beginnings. Sometimes you have to let go of the past to embrace your future." I asked, stunned, if she posted this publicly. Sophie nodded, angry tears in her eyes. Said half her friends had seen it, and people were asking her questions. It was humiliating. I pulled her into a hug and apologized, said her mother was making poor choices. Sophie corrected me, said Jennifer was making selfish choices and there's a difference. The next morning, I got a call from Morrison Industries, not from Ryan, but from his boss. A woman named Patricia Wong introduced herself as CEO of Morrison Industries, said she understood there had been some personal conflict between me and one of her VPs regarding my proposal. I chose my words carefully, said there had been some complications. Patricia said bluntly that Ryan Chen no longer worked for the company. They didn't tolerate employees who created conflicts of interest or engaged in unprofessional conduct. My proposal was still under consideration and would be evaluated solely on merit. She apologized for any distress the situation had caused. After she hung up, I sat back in my chair. Ryan had been fired. Jennifer's meal ticket was gone. I felt absolutely nothing but cold satisfaction. Friday afternoon, I was picking up Tyler from wrestling practice when my phone exploded with notifications. Texts from Sophie, from other parents, from neighbors. I pulled over and checked. Sophie had posted something on Instagram, a long message starting with, "Since my mom decided to make her life public, I'm going to tell the truth." My heart stopped. I called Sophie immediately. Before I could speak, she said she knew I'd be mad, but she couldn't stay quiet anymore, said Jennifer was lying about everything, making me look like the villain. And Sophie was done watching her manipulate people. I asked if she posted the truth that Jennifer had an affair, that she stole money from our family, that I'd been nothing but kind and fair through all of this, that Jennifer walked out without even saying goodbye. I pulled into a parking lot and read the full post. It was detailed, emotional, and brutally honest. Sophie had tagged Jennifer, tagged Ryan, tagged everyone. I told her carefully that I appreciated her wanting to defend me, but this was between her mother and me. She didn't need to put herself in the middle. Sophie's voice broke. Said she was already in the middle. We all were. She was tired of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. Said Jennifer hurt me, hurt us, and was out there acting like the sufferer. I drove home and found Sophie in her room. She'd been crying. I told her I wasn't mad, but needed her to understand something. When you go public like this, there's no taking it back. Her relationship with her mother just changed permanently. Sophie said fiercely it already changed the moment Jennifer chose someone else over her family. That evening, Jennifer called. Not me, but Sophie directly, screaming loud enough I could hear it across the room. Sophie held the phone away from her ear, let Jennifer rant, then said calmly that Jennifer made her choices and Sophie was making hers. Told her not to call again until she was ready to apologize to me and actually mean it. Then Sophie hung up. She looked at me with tears streaming down her face and asked if she did the right thing. I pulled her into a hug. Told her she stood up for what she believed in, defended her family. That took courage, and I was proud of her. Later that night, Tyler knocked on my office door. Said he wanted to talk to Jennifer, tell her she needed to give the money back. I looked at my 13-year-old son, seeing the anger and hurt in his eyes. Told him that wasn't his responsibility. Tyler said simply that she stole from us, that money was for our new house, for our future. She didn't get to just take it and pretend everything was fine. My kids were fighting my battles, and while part of me was proud of their strength, another part ached that they had to grow up this fast and this harshly. I promised I'd handle their mother and told him to focus on being a kid, on wrestling and school and his friends. Let me carry this weight. But Tyler shook his head, said we're a team and I taught them that. Teams support each other. In that moment, I realized Jennifer hadn't just destroyed our marriage. She'd forged something stronger. She'd united our family against dishonesty, against selfishness, against betrayal. We were broken but becoming something better. The divorce hearing arrived 3 months later. Derek had warned me it would be brutal, and he wasn't wrong. Jennifer showed up with an aggressive attorney from Phoenix, a woman named Helen Price, who specialized in high-asset divorces. They came ready for war. Helen started by claiming I'd systematically pushed Jennifer out of the business she helped build, that I'd used my position to isolate her, turn our children against her, and manipulate financial records. Derek stood immediately, with documented evidence, that Jennifer engaged in an extramarital affair using company resources, embezzled company funds, and transferred marital assets to personal accounts in preparation for divorce. We weren't requesting anything beyond what the partnership agreement stipulated. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s named Judge Ramirez, looked over the documents. She'd reviewed the partnership agreement and said the infidelity clause was clear, asked Jennifer directly if she engaged in an affair while using company credit cards for personal expenses. Jennifer's attorney tried to object, but the judge silenced her with a look. Jennifer said quietly, she made a mistake, that she was lonely, that I'd become distant and cold. She sought companionship. Judge Ramirez interrupted and said, that's not what she asked. Did Jennifer use company funds for personal expenses related to an extramarital affair? Jennifer hesitated, then said yes, but tried to continue. The judge cut her off again and asked if she transferred $75,000 from a joint savings account to a personal account prior to divorce proceedings. Jennifer argued that money was hers too. She earned it. Derek stood again and explained that money was specifically designated for a family relocation and business expansion to Seattle. Jennifer transferred it 3 weeks before I even knew about the affair. We had documentation showing premeditation. Judge Ramirez reviewed more documents and ordered the immediate return of 70% of that money to a joint account pending final asset division. Said Jennifer would receive her buyout according to partnership agreement terms, which, given the circumstances, was generous. Jennifer's face went white. Helen Price tried to argue, but the judge had made her decision. Outside the courtroom, Jennifer approached me with tears streaming down her face. Said, please don't do this. We could still fix it. I told her calmly there was nothing to fix. She made her choices, and now she lived with the consequences. She said desperately, "What about Ryan? He lost his job because of me. He was struggling. They needed that money." I stared at her, genuinely shocked, asked if she was asking me to fund her affair after everything. She said she was asking me to have compassion. I told her I had compassion for our kids, for the family she destroyed, for the future she threw away. But for her and Ryan, they were on their own. Derek pulled me away before I could say anything else. Said I'd won, but it didn't feel like winning. Just felt like surviving. 8 months after the divorce was finalized, I stood in the living room of our new house in Seattle watching movers carry furniture. Sophie had just started her freshman year at the University of Washington. Tyler was thriving at his new high school, captain of the wrestling team. Madison had made friends in her second grade class and barely mentioned her mother anymore. The business had survived, more than survived. Without Jennifer's drama and Ryan's interference, we'd landed the Morrison contract and 2 additional Fortune 500 clients. I promoted my senior developer to partner, brought in fresh talent, and opened our Seattle office ahead of schedule. Jennifer had moved in with Ryan, who'd found work at a smaller tech company at half his previous salary. She'd burned through her settlement money within 4 months, tried to take me back to court for more support, and lost. Sophie refused to speak to her. Tyler saw her once a month out of obligation. Madison asked about her sometimes, but didn't seem particularly interested in visiting. Robert Hayes, Jennifer's father, had become a regular presence in our lives. The 67-year-old showed up for Tyler's wrestling matches, took Madison to the park on Saturdays, and had Sunday dinners with us once a month. He told me after one dinner that I was a good man, better than his daughter deserved, and he was sorry for what she put me through. I replied that his grandchildren needed their grandfather, and that's what mattered now. Sophie came downstairs carrying a box of books and asked where I wanted them. I told her it was her choice. This was her home too. She smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from her in months. Said it felt good here, like we could breathe again. That evening after the kids were asleep, I sat on the back porch of our new house looking at the mountains in the distance. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek saying Ryan Chen had filed for bankruptcy and Jennifer was calling everyone for money. I deleted the message. Their problems weren't mine anymore. I thought about the man I'd been a year ago, the one who discovered his wife's betrayal and thought his world was ending. I'd been wrong. My world hadn't ended. It had just cleared away the rot so something stronger could grow. I taught my kids that integrity matters, that honesty matters, that you don't compromise your values even when it hurts. They watched me stand up for myself, fight for them, and rebuild from ashes. Sophie was thriving in college. Tyler was confident and strong. Madison was happy. And me, I was free. The betrayal had broken me open, but what grew back was tougher, clearer, better. I learned that love without respect is worthless, that trust is earned daily, and that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away. I didn't hate Jennifer anymore. I didn't think about her much at all. She was just a chapter in my story, not the whole book. And the next chapters were mine to write.